Welcome back to another episode of Wisdom on Autopilot. I'm Nate Connor, and I have the privilege of interviewing amazing people and creating a unique experience through good old-fashioned conversation and my studio's modern-day autopilot technology. I want to bring you the cheat codes of life that will enrich and skyrocket your life now by learning from others' successes and failures and putting into practice the wisdom that they discovered. Join me as I refine my perspective by talking out the most important things to get right from those who have gone before or dared to live out their dreams. I believe we all have success or failure mechanisms built within us called our subconscious mind that we can program or set to autopilot and achieve anything we truly desire and aim ourselves towards. Belief controls our actions, and those actions become our daily habits until they're our ideology or worldview. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what do I have running on autopilot? And what is steering and influencing me in the life I'm currently creating for myself and for those around me? If you're interested in exploring this with me and my guest, please make sure to subscribe, turn on all notifications so you never miss an episode. All right, let's get into it. Today's guest has known me longer than anyone, even before I was born. I'm interviewing my mom today, who grew up in the 1950s and 60s, and she has an amazing perspective to share. She was married to my father for almost 54 years before he passed away in 2021, and we'll explore how she's handling such a loss and what advice she has for today's generation. She's a spunky and fun-loving 74-year-old jewel of a lady. She's the sweetest person I've ever met. She was a homeschooler. I was homeschooled. She was a homemaker. She got her real estate license, agent's license to help my dad, and she's just a God-fearing, hard-working, and precious woman. I can't wait for you to meet her. I'm actually following her right now in her 1989 mint red Chevy Corvette, and she's not really good with technology. She's not a huge fan of the autonomous driving, so let's see how she reacts to the autopilot. Let's go. Meet my mom. Okay, Mom, welcome to my podcast, Wisdom on Autopilot. I'm very happy to have you here today. Are you excited to ride in an automatic, self-driving, autonomous vehicle?
Not really.
But are you excited to be here?
I'm excited to be here.
But this is your first time. I've had the autopilot for a couple months, and I've decided to keep it from you just to save it for your reaction on this podcast. So I'm excited.
Okay.
All right, here we go. So we are setting the car to autopilot. I'm looking at you. I'm not looking at the road. How does that feel?
Not good.
Okay. So we are driving. The car is taking us. Look, it's following this vehicle.
I'm from the old school.
I know you are, but that's okay. Old school and new school. You've got the old hot rod red car Corvette. Look at this. Watch it take the turn. Watch it take the turn. Pretty good, right?
So far, so good.
Does it make you a little uneasy?
Yes.
At
first, I'll try not to think about it.
At first, it made me kind of feel uneasy, but then I remembered, like, it's not going to allow me to hit anything, and it's also taking out the human error, equation. So the autonomous driving is nice because it sort of allows you not to relax. You still have to pay attention, but it allows you to keep the center line. It helps you to stop behind the stop signs. Like, it's going to stop at all yellow lights. It's going to be safer than you. So I feel completely safe in it. And so should you. Okay. So I wanted to have you on the podcast today. Obviously, you know me better than anyone. You raised me, and getting your perspective on certain things, maybe talking out certain things in my childhood. And I wanted to bring some perspective to everyone today on some questions. You're 74 years young, right?
Yes.
74 years young, and
I'm thankful for that.
Yes, of course. And I want to talk about some of the gold nuggets, as I like to call them. I think I got that from you. Mm-hmm. Gold nuggets of wisdom that we can pass on to the future generation, to the current generation, and just like your willingness to be able to ride in a self-driving car today, I want to sort of raise awareness for folks in your generation that what is happening right now with technology, with artificial intelligence, with autonomous cars, they are all happening in your time. You know, they are happening in your generation. See how we stop behind the stop sign? Super safe. And I think that you can either adapt to these things or at least use them as tools, or, you know, you can get left behind to an extent. What do you think about that?
Probably no comment.
No, tell me what you think.
You always have the older generation saying, boy, in my time, it was different.
Right,
And I
right.
never thought I would say that.
No, well, I know.
But
I know.
I do.
Well, it's funny, like, even now being 37 years old, I can see things in the 90s, the way movies were, the way comedy was structured, the way that the world was, you know, they weren't so sensitive and everything. The world has changed, and I can find myself slipping into that, oh, back in my day or back in my time. And I think that there's a lesson there, because I think everyone picks teams and generations, and you're a baby boomer or you're a Gen Z or whatever, and you get sort of trapped in that, and you limit yourself and you just live in the best days. So then your body sort of takes over, well, my golden years have gone and this and that, but we should be learning things until the day we die. We should be adapting, pushing ourselves, challenging ourselves, keeping our brains busy. You know, and, you know, it doesn't mean you have to love every new piece of technology. Electric cars, for an example, I know you're a hot rod gal. I want to tell a little bit about the story with the 63 Plymouth, and we'll get to that. But I just wanted your general comment on, you know, tell me a little bit about what do you see going on, and maybe some strengths of your generation, versus today. Like, what are some things that the kids today really need to incorporate in their life?
Well, the first and foremost thing, as I see, is technology is good, can be good, and it can be not good, so good. And that's it can't be a general statement for everybody, but I see, for the most part, I have pictures and we're all out playing till dark, you know, just having the best time of our life. And I see kids, wherever they're at a ball game, wherever they're at for activities, they've got that phone, and they're just addicted.
On
and that's what
devices.
Concerns me.
Yeah.
They're missing a lot.
Sure. And as a parent, I've been guilty of giving a phone, you know, giving a tablet, to sort of keep a kid quiet, or, you know, while I'm busy doing another project or something like that. I think that's something that we as parents have to be on top of and enforce, limit, regulate. But back in your day, now let's see, what year did you graduate high school?
67.
Graduated 67. Tell me a little bit about what it was like back then going to high school. Like, what was all the rage? What was you know, the thing to do back then?
The Beatles.
The Beatles, all right. I like the Beatles.
Oh, my
Who was your
goodness.
favorite Beatle? Paul McCartney?
He did good at songwriting, but I liked Ringo.
Ringo, really?
Ringo was funny.
Yeah. Okay. They were all probably tripping on LSD and mushrooms and other forms of drugs and
I
things.
don't know a group that didn't.
Yeah.
And it's
what
funny.
was that like in that generation, like being around all that? And you never did it. My mom is a saint, okay? She has never
I'm
cussed.
Not. No, I have.
Well, barely.
Before I was
like
saved.
literally 6 times maybe. But she's never taken a sip of alcohol. Or is that true?
No,
This is your
that's
time
true.
to confess.
That's true.
No alcohol.
No, my brother, at one of our gatherings one time, we don't drink alcohol, but he did at the time, and he wanted me to try it, and I said, no, thank you. And I was drinking 7-Up, so when I wasn't looking,
Oh, you put some
he
in there?
put some in there.
Which
and-
uncle? Uncle Jerry?
Uncle Jerry. And when I...
Rascal. I want to have him on the podcast.
I love him. I love him, though. But anyway... when I sipped it, it burned all the way down.
They put some liquor or something in there.
Yes.
Wow.
And so that's the only thing. That was enough.
Interesting.
And I
Yeah.
didn't want it.
I see. So what? So the Beatles were in, and you know, obviously you met Dad really young. You met him when you were 13, 14?
I was about to be 14, and he was about to be 16, but we were 13 and 15. Met at a ball game, after a ball game.
You got introduced at a football game, and he was kind of your first boyfriend, right?
Yes. Other than junior high, just
Yeah.
nothing,
Nothing
just that
serious.
little, that you're very, very young there.
Yeah.
And just the little,
Flings and whatnot. So you and Dad got into a relationship pretty young, and then, I mean, how soon into it did you know that he was the one?
When I first met him.
When you first met him? That's awesome.
And he said, well, in 4 years, honey, we're going to get married. And I wanted to believe that, but I thought, we'll see,
Yeah. You had your doubts.
Yeah.
And of course, you guys were married for 54 years?
Lacking 3 months, we were
Yeah.
married 54 years.
Yeah.
And he, Lord took him home.
So you and Dad got married. You were how old? You were like 17, right?
Yes, but I was 2 months away from being 18.
Okay.
Still very, 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 very young.
Very young. What was it like getting married that young? Like, because you look back, I know for me, when I look back and I'm like, I didn't know anything at 25, and it's a miracle that I survived my teenage years. Like, so how was it getting married that young?
Well, I'll tell you, things were different, much different then. It was still young, but there were still some girls getting married, and you could go to school. Like if you were 16 and you got married, you could still finish school. That was very different. But also, I grew up in a home where I learned to really be a housekeeper. All of us 6 kids had to take our turns in the kitchen and doing chores, which helped us, really. Helped us to in later life, just in everyday living.
But was it like, I think, it's the maturity came through the experience, right?
Oh,
you had to learn really
definitely.
quick. You had to grow up really quick.
Definitely.
Into being married and, having kids. So it was, early marriage, early struggle. But I think that's also can be some of the things that keeps you together for so long. And I mean, like nowadays, divorce is so rampant. I know it used to be 50%. I think it's higher than that now, the divorce rate. What can you say to like young couples that are either struggling or, thinking about getting a divorce, or maybe thinking they're too young to get married? Like what's some marriage advice you could give for making it to 53, 54 years married?
Well, first and foremost, we humans are, to ourselves, the way we're made, tend to be a little selfish.
Yes.
And especially, I guess, maybe the younger, I don't know. Could happen when you're a little bit older than I was getting married, but of course, you have that glue that brings you together, that overwhelming, loving feeling that we all experience. And then after just a short time, it doesn't have to end, but you are in reality of the everyday things living together and being different. So you have to work on that. You have to be selfless. Now, we're selfish by tendencies, but I got saved. I came to the Lord and started living the Christian life when I was 21. It was 12 years before my husband, your dad, got saved at 33. And the years when we were in our 20s, there were he was getting his real estate license and broker's license. And so I will say this, and I won't go into the details, but we had the biggest marital and test and the biggest trial. It was my first trial, really, as a Christian. And I wouldn't want to go through that again, but guess what? I'm so thankful. Because that is where I got to know the Lord Jesus Christ. He became he is real, but he revealed himself to me in such a mighty way. And he gave me a love, even when I didn't want to be loving to Larry. He gave me his love to him. and it convicted him, it drew him to the Lord. And he became saved at 33, grew in the Lord, and became a mighty man of God. So those factors, bringing and having the Lord first over your marriage, I'm telling you, you're not perfect. You still have problems and trials in life, but you just can, you have the power of the Lord to get through them, and it brings you closer to Him and to each other. So we were very blessed with that.
Oh, that's awesome. And, you know, seeing you guys being loving and together and affectionate, you know, is important. I've been married now 8 years, almost 9 in September, and you know, it's because of the example that you and Dad set for me. And you know, I think taking our vows seriously is something that's really lacking today. And I think that people don't realize the benefit of the all-in feature that is marriage. They just see the chains. They just see like,
Right.
okay, well, I've got this ring and I can't, you know, be with anyone else, and I'm limited, and I'm just, you know, guys tease about it as my ball and chain, or you know, whatever. And they have this fantasy, I think, of cheating. They have this fantasy of playing the field, and you know, they feed that, unfortunately, through all that's out there and we're exposed to, and that's
Temptations are
yes,
there.
oh yes, and it's all at our fingertips. So I think that changing your mindset, and it's not a trickery of the mind, it's really discovering what the true benefits of being all in with someone who that you've selected and that you're close with, and that you truly can. You might not be, you know, like you and Dad, you weren't all lined up perfectly, you had some differences, but those differences get, you know, refined. You guys
Yes.
sort of grapple with what
Yes.
do we believe, how are we going to raise our kids, what is
Yes.
our ideology, like what is our path, and it's a constant refining. But if you go into it competing with each other, and you go into it saying, you know, let me impress you by showing you how I can beat you in this conversation, then you're not a part of the team, and that's not how to do it. It's, you don't make the other person feel small, or, you know, their
Right.
feelings not
Right.
hurt out. You have to say, we're in this together, let's dive in this together. What do you know? Here's what I know, and let's get on the same page and let's walk together. But the benefit of having somebody that is all in and committed, that you can unload on, and that's not going to go anywhere, and that can help you work through things, I really think is a huge benefit in life. It's why the Bible says it's better off that man not be alone. And
right.
I think it's our, like you said, it's our personal sanctification. You know, God, the devil certainly tries to turn it against each other. He tries to bring division. He tries to
Yes.
bring
Oh, yes.
things in that cause you to, you know, just build your own little worlds. But you've got to strip those things down. You've got to communicate. You've got to be one. And if you really are, you're so strong that there's not a girl out there or a man out there, or you know, all the devil and all of his fallen angels are not powerful enough to come against the bond that God can give a blessed marriage.
That's
and
right.
I have discovered
That's
that, and I've discovered the benefits of it, and I want to shout it from the rooftops, you know. But that it is like, where's the balance though of, you know, especially from a young age of 17, of knowing that person. I mean, if you could have really, everyone has their own snakes, you know, everyone has their own sin. And so it's so tough to see someone, because we all put our best foot forward in relationships,
Right.
but seeing someone for their sinful nature and being able to love them and work with them. I mean, Dad definitely had his issues in the beginning, throughout marriage. I mean, what was your solutions when problems came up? What did you guys like have some rules in place? I know, like, don't let the sun go down upon your wrath. Try to get things ironed out before you go to bed.
Unfortunately, that didn't always happen.
No, and it does not. It's a good
But
goal.
we learned as we went along.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about the feeling that you have in loving a person. There's days where, if you're human, you will say, I just don't like him today. I
Yeah.
love him, and I am committed to him, but I don't. And he probably said the same with me. But one statement that is so true, and it sounds like it would be opposite of each other, is that love, true love, emotionally, physically, spiritually, it's a spiritual thing when two people come in marriage. It is holy matrimony. But love is not a feeling. It can be when everything's rosy, but that's not where it stops. Love is not a feeling. It is an act of your will.
I like that.
That's the big thing that I learned in our marriage. And I've seen it play out.
That's great. You know, this is a hard one for me to talk about as well, but being married to someone for 53 years, obviously I feel your pain here because it's my father. What, I don't even know how to approach this without getting emotional, but what advice, how do you lose someone that you had for 53 years? How do you go on? Like, how can you even breathe?
Very good question. And I have a very good answer. I will say this because I want anyone listening to this to know something I learned from a doctor's report, that when you cry for different reasons. You cry for happiness, joy, all this, things that laughter can, and true happiness when you're laughing at things are good for your soul. The Bible said it's like medicine when you laugh. But when you cry, there is a healing process.
Feels good when you cry sometimes.
And there's a healing in it. And there's for a lack of a better word, a chemical substance that God put in us that when we lose someone, the more we cry, the crying goes into our inner soul and being and physical body, that we are healing, and I know there's people that can't move on in life because of the grief. Grief is a process, but it never really always goes away. I had a moment the other day. I was going to Publix and I had to pull over because I heard a song that was ours, and it just happened, and yet there's many times I dream about him, and I love to do that. It was in all ages of our life, which was so interesting.
The dream,
but in dreaming and the love that we shared and the life we had together. However, I know ultimately that God's plan is that one day we will all pass away. But we are made with a soul, a spirit that will last forever, for eternity. And the joy that I have is in the Lord, is His strength that He gives me. I want to, not that I can do it, but the Lord through me, I would love to minister to widows that can't go on. And I would love to try to encourage them in this area.
Well, this is your opportunity right now. If they're listening and maybe they're at the end of their rope, or they're in a really tough place, or maybe just having a bad day triggered by a song like you did.
Right.
What
it's all normal. It is.
What would you say to them, and what is your just either go-to verse or?
Well, the only comfort that I receive, and you can receive, is absolutely trusting the Lord and turn to Him. Maybe you don't know Him, but cry out to Him and ask Him. If you ask, seek, and knock, you will find. You will find it. He will answer your prayers. He will give you the strength to go on. He will give you, even though you still grieve and you have your moments, try to turn your memories that are sad. Memories, are sad when you know He's gone. However, the Lord, I'm so glad He made us with memories, because that's what I do. I take joy now It took me a while. It takes a while of the grieving process, but you will get to a place where you will absolutely have a smile on your face remembering him. You don't forget, and you don't ultimately ever stop grieving, but you go on. You go on like he would want you to go on in life. Find joy in wherever the Lord leads you. Get in a church group. I know my ladies at church, my Bible studies, all of that just brings so much inspiration and encouragement for me to go on. So I really pray that for all of you that hear this.
So find maybe, people who have gone through the same thing, some of the ladies that are widows.
Yes, they share
share
their heartaches, of course, and it just helps when you have someone that truly understands your feelings and what you're going through.
I know for me, missing dad or losing dad, which is different than a relationship with a spouse, especially for 53 years, but obviously all of my life, and the father-son relationship versus the spouse relationship is different. But, I like you said, I don't think you're ever free from the weight of it. And some days the weight is really realized. I think that we can be in the Word, and we can be encouraged, and we can be in good spirits, and we can be busy and occupying the time like we're supposed to, and like the gravity of it is a little lighter because we see the big picture. We see that we're not, of this earth, and that we're going to be reunited in heaven one day. But there's other days where that zoom out, perspective, consciousness is not really clear, and we're in our situation, we're in our problems, we're in our pain, maybe we're in our grief, and gosh, the weight just hits you like, oh man, this can't be forever. Like this, and those are really the tough days for me.
Of course.
But I get what you mean by the memories, because I think that, and I see those now with my boys. I find myself parenting like he parented. I hear my voice in my correcting of my sons, or in my, being proud and telling them that they're the apple of my eye, or, I can hear I say it the same way that he said it. And I know how it made me feel when he said it. So it's an amazing happiness that bubbles up to know that I'm carrying on those things to my son, and that, it hurts that he's not here to see them and their accomplishments or my accomplishments, but it is very comforting to know, better to have loved and lost than never loved at all. It's encouraging to have those memories, those little moments of joy that you can tuck away and sort of savor on, that you can't buy. Money cannot buy you those things. But, they help enrich that person's life overall. We miss the time that we had with them on earth, but what is the overall picture of that person? Were they meant to live forever? No. They were meant to live. They were meant to die. And I believe that if you can look at it that way and just celebrate their life, celebrate the memories, carry on their legacies, and carry on things like, I sort of live in this perspective of that dad is watching. Now, do I know he's watching? I think he's way too busy in the golden streets, and he's not preoccupied or burdened by the things of the earth by any means. But I like to envision that the things that he entrusted me to do, or the things that I promised him to do, like take care of you, that I'm doing, and that he is finding pleasure in, and that I'm getting pleasure in fulfilling, his will, just like we're meant to do with our Heavenly Father's will. And I think there's comfort in that. There's purpose in that. There's meaning in that. You savor, his memories and y'all's songs and dates and things. And, it's that is a source of joy for you, I think.
It is.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about my upbringing. Give everybody a rundown of what I was like growing up, or just what I was like as a kid. I'd love to, and for me to know. Maybe I can, learn something from this.
I don't know where to start, except that when you were born, big, 9 pounds, 13 and a half ounces. He looked like a little wrestler. Always been a big guy. His smile was contagious, still is. You were always, always, from birth on, a joy. The Bible says that a wise son maketh his mother or parents, or father, I think it is, which means both of us, really, happy and joyful. Not, there were still times, you were human, you were a stinker.
No doubt.
At times, but I remember he had a little saying. He was just a toddler, and if I had gone to the store and I was coming back home or something, but Nathan would always say, "Here comes Mommy now. She's so sweet now," and that is a forever in my heart.
I write that on all of your Mother's Day cards.
Oh yes, I get that on my Mother's Day
That's our
cards
little
and birthday
special thing.
cards. I love it.
It's nice to have a special thing, you know?
Right.
Those are nice.
Exactly. But he always was determined, had a determination about him, even when he was a toddler. He wanted to join the big kids, and one day I was kneeling down, and they were having a relay race of the bigger kids.
Homeschool group.
Yes,
homeschool.
about 18 months old, I think he, almost 2. And he put my arm down when they started running and ran out on the field with them.
Pushed your arm down and I wanted to be out there.
Just took off.
Wanted to go for it.
And what I have found too, as he's gotten older, is I can't stop this guy. He is multitasked, and that is a special kind of person. Let me tell you.
ADHD.
Yeah, ADHD. Okay,
Yeah, for
that's
sure,
part
ADHD.
of it too. Because I'll say, Nathan, you can't take on something else. You've got all this.
I probably
He
shouldn't.
somehow figures out how to do it and still balance his time with his family. So he's an amazing guy, really.
Oh, that's very sweet. I was kind of a late blooming kid. I was a little on the pudgy side. I got picked on a lot. I was a mama's boy. I still am a mama's boy. I will admit that. I'm proud of that. Okay, so a couple questions here that I wanted to ask you. What are some of the most important lessons you feel you have learned over the course of your life?
Well, I started off very, very, very shy. With shyness is another word is fear.
Or anxiety. I think you had a lot of anxiety.
Well, not when I was a little girl. I was just shy. People come over, I'd go hide and that sort of thing. But when I started school in first grade, it was traumatic. I cried. I wanted to go home. I finally got into it. But from there to the 12th grade, I still got physically sick when I had to get up and give a report. I always cared what the other kids thought of me.
Yeah.
And it was just more painful than joyful.
I think you still have that trait. Where you care what people think.
No. Lord has set me free from that.
Okay, well, good.
I couldn't get up. I can get up now in front of crowds and be comfortable. That is the Lord helping me. So, no, I got set free of that.
Oh, good.
I don't live like that. And I didn't. I have for a long time now, which I'm very thankful. Let me give you an example in high school real quickly. I wanted to be a majorette in March with the band. And I took lessons and was all set to sign up. And the day of signing up, I was too fearful. And that I have a regret, and I've learned from that. How we can have, life is so short, and we can have so many regrets when we're that fearful. And that's just one example of being fearful and missing out on so many things that could have been really fun for me.
What would you say to someone who maybe is too fearful to take the next step or try out for the, cheerleaders or whatever? And what would you say to someone?
Well, I would try to encourage them that it's all a lie, that they're believing, that people aren't looking at you and judging you. They're not.
They really don't care. People
they're
actually
not
don't
going to
care.
hurt you. I know when all eyes are on you, you have this kind of a where you just freeze there for a minute, but you don't have to have that.
No.
God did not make us to have fear, and we're so free when we don't have fear. and we can enjoy life.
And we learn from doing it. We learn from making
Oh,
mistakes. That's
yes.
another huge thing. I know
Absolutely.
something that I recently sort of wrestling with or implementing when I get nervous about doing a presentation or something in front of somebody. I think to myself, when I think about what would they think, or what if mine is not like anyone else's, presentation or something like that, which is just, of course, ridiculous. But I try to have the perspective of, I'm one of you. I'm a human, just like all of you. I got up this morning, put on my pants, ate breakfast, did my business, and came here to present this thing. If it's different or out there, it's my unique contribution to life, to this meeting, to the team or the majorettes or whatever. It's my unique thing. I try to think of us all in God's landscape, and maybe we're like little pebbles on the beach, and somebody else is the flowers and somebody else is the sky, but we're all unique and different, but we are part of the picture. We're all human. So I try to take comfort in that.
Yeah, that is very much true. That's good.
What are some of the things you know now that you wish you knew when you were younger?
Have we got time? The list is endless. One thing about it when you're young, and I've never met anyone who, I haven't met a lot of people, but I would assume human nature is kind of the same, even though humans are different.
Yeah.
You don't think of time going by. You do not think of it going by. You just don't. You just think you're going to be young forever almost. And you don't have to think about those things at all. Not that you have to dwell on it, but just have a perspective of it.
No, I think that's huge importance. I know lately for me, I'm trying to appreciate the sun more. It's like another day, another opportunity, and like you said, we take them for granted, and we just think that they're gonna be in unlimited supply. Oh, I'll put that off. I'll do that another time. I'll try out for that, and another time, or whatever the case is. But yeah, I'm trying to appreciate the days more. So I'll watch the sun go down, and it'll be nightfall, and just try to appreciate. Hey, let me reflect on the day, and what did I get accomplished today towards my goals, towards my dreams? Because if you look at it, there's some scary stuff out there. There's some scary visuals out there of our weeks put onto, and our years, the average human life put on a chart of all the days, literally on a chart, and all the weeks, and then all the accounting for sleep and eating and going to work or doing things. And when you think of it like that, our time is but a vapor. It is so limited. So it's important to go at it as, and everyone has different struggles. Not everybody's confident. Some people have anxiety, they have fear, they have depression, they have things they're working on. But I just want to encourage folks out there.
That really cripples people.
It does. It holds them back. And I don't think people are ready to reflect on the compounding effect of, waking up one day and realizing that they didn't do what they thought they were going to do. And I think a lot of people go through a middle-age crisis. They go through life and they try to get lost in alcohol. They try to get lost in sports. They try to get lost and just live reactively to life, and try to just choose comfort. But I really believe that life is at the end of your comfort zone, and that it is about trying out for the team. And even if you fail on the tryout and you get embarrassed and everyone looks at you and you weren't able to make it, it's a horrible thing. It's a horrible feeling, but you take that feeling and you take a deep breath and you say, I'm going to reflect. I'm going to improve. I'm going to train harder. More time to get better, more time to practice on the thing. And if you can take the failure, you're no good, everybody thinks you're weird, everybody thinks you're different. If you take, that's what the devil says to you, to hold you and lock you in mediocrity, in, never accomplishing what you want to accomplish. But realizing that it is within you, the power of, the strength. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, and just go for it and learn from the lesson, learn from the mistakes. I know for me, when I'm in like the middle of learning where people are watching me and I don't know what I'm doing, do you ever notice how well you learn in those moments? I like to call it like rapid learning. But like if I'm in the middle of learning something and someone is watching me try, you learn a lot quicker because you're like, okay, I've got to be really attentive here. And so learning happens because you're put on the spot or maybe you failed and they said, oh, try again next time, get better at this, that, X, Y, and Z. And you're able to go back to the drawing board and work on your systems, work on your training, work on whatever it is you're trying to improve upon, and take out the fear. I heard something recently that said that our spirit from a childhood gets so caged like a wild horse. It gets caged and we're told, oh, put that away, be safe, be comfortable. But it wants to run. It wants to learn and have adventure.
Mm-hmm. Got to be careful, though.
Well, of course.
Some adventure's not good.
Well,
I have a PS on my take on that. Is to stop, look, and listen. To stop as you go. Say the turning point is after high school. Are you going to college? Are you going to get a career? Are you, learning something another ways, another skill or whatever? Getting married, which was my thing, of course.
Yeah.
But everything that you do, you stop as life starts getting crazy. Then, with good things, very good things. But for instance, when you have a family, many times everybody's going here and there and this and that. But stop and evaluate your life. Stop and think about the time going. You have to stop and think. You think you got plenty of time, but none of us ever know. And you have to just cherish and try to put more of the right things. Those are all good, but try to balance things better in your life.
No.
And then stop, look, about wasting time. Oh, the time wasters. Look at how I think of all the moments that passed that were wasted. And then listen, try to get and glean wisdom, and God's wisdom.
And listen to people who've been there and done it before you.
People and their experiences.
And that's why I'm doing this podcast, is I want to learn from those who have gone before and done it. And, I do think that we should not be done learning until the day we die, and that we can learn from our kids. We can learn, and I'd love to get your perspective on that. You live with me now. My mom, after my father passed away in July of 2021, she had a large house. It was too much to upkeep, so we sold the house. And thankfully, it worked out perfectly. I had an RV hookup, so we got her a nice RV, and she set up there at the house. And my children are able to go see Grammy every day, and it's a nice babysitting opportunity for us here and there. Of course, my mom is a complete servant. She's her weaknesses are doing too much, caring too much. Literally, I'll find her doing dishes or cleaning something, and I have to literally escort her out or make her stop. But what is it like living with your child and having your child now managing your finances, making sure you're home? She's a night owl. She likes to she hangs out with friends until the late hours of the night.
We try to find something to talk about.
It's midnight sometimes before you come home. But what's it like now having your kid, me, call you and say, "Where you at, Mom? Get home"?
Well, it's okay. I feel good that all of my children are very protective of me and care and love me so much. There have been a couple of times where I'll go, "Really? Really, kids? Yeah, I can do this, But all in all, it is a different role. It is completely turned around. But I'm very thankful for it. I'm very blessed.
Yeah. Well, we love having you there. And, I think that it just ties into what is the timeline look like of a life, you know, and we can think about this when we're missing someone that has gone, we're celebrating their life and the time that we had with them. But I think when it comes to raising a family and spending the most important asset that we have, like you said, the time with our family, we have to look at the broad spectrum and say, I want to raise kids that are going to take care of me later on, not just financially. That's kind of like a thing, I think, amongst parents where, you know, and now that I'm a parent, I see that appeal. Let's put our kids in the best schools and give them the best education so they can make a ton of money and they can take care of us later on. And that is a good pursuit. I think that,
That's not one that I ever thought about.
well, and good, but one that should be beefed up a little bit, I think, with more than just money and being taken care of. I think you need kids that are not just going to put you in a home or forget about you and neglect you. You want to build that support system, and like you and Dad did, of kids, 4 kids, grandkids, great grandkids, but kids that are prepared to function in a sinful and fallen world and be able to maybe tell you later in life when you're training them, right, to be sharp, so that when you're not as sharp, and I think we should be keeping our minds busy and learning new things and staying sharp as long as we can, but when you get to the place where, hey, you're getting older and you need a support system and you want to have a smooth transition, you know, into your older years, you want them to be pleasant, you want them to be peaceful, and you have to train your children in order to step into those roles. And you know, I think for me, it's been it's a really crazy experience being your son, but checking on you, telling you, hey, you need to get home. Hey, you shouldn't spend on this, or we're not spending this or spending that. But it's for your best interest. Obviously, it's what Dad, you know, put me here to charged me with, and that is, you know, has been my word and my honor to carry that out. And it's my honor to take care of you because you took care of me, because you carried me in your womb for 9 months, and you know, because you brought me up, it's now my turn to be into that role. And I think that can be beautiful, that can be wonderful, that can be smooth. Now, doesn't mean that it's carefree and doesn't mean that it's problem free. There's going to be friction. There's going to be butting heads on certain things. But I think that if we're all open to having that support system and it function at its optimal, then you have to humble yourself and say, I need to listen to my child who is more up to date on certain things, or, you know, I need to maybe give some of my wisdom and experience, but it should be, you know, it should be harmony. It should be a blessing to both of us. It should be a blessing for you to see, man, I trained my child I built a human that is capable of grief and maintaining their composure, is capable of, you know, being emotionally regulated, being able to provide, you know, being able to function in this world, and is now equipped. I'm trusting them to take care of me, and I'm giving them that trust to do so. And on my part, when you give me that trust, that makes me, as your son, want to be, you know, the best provider and the best protector and the best companion, you know, and so it's a really interesting dynamic, and it's a really interesting relationship. But I think that, you know, it's not really in most parents, and I'm trying to remind myself of this, it's not at the front of our list on training kids. We're like, well, we'll figure that out later in life. We'll figure out that kind of stuff later in life. But I think it's important to raise a child to be able to let them go, even to the point of falling under their guidance, because you've done your job, because you've taught them, because you've instructed. And now it's time to learn from them and lean on them and rely on them.
That's very true. There's a delicate balance, because I believe that, I go by that, I'm happy about that, But there's some things that, like, I'm in my whole different chapter of my life.
Yeah.
And this journey is different. So I do take your advice most of the time.
I know. Well, it's
But
a healthy, listen, it doesn't mean that you just need to be passive. It's kind of like a relationship we were talking about earlier. It's a grappling match. If we're in the pursuit of truth, if we're both in the pursuit of truth, and this can be said for any relationship, whether it be a physical, personal relationship, work relationship, marriage, mother and son, whatever, if you're in pursuit of the truth, then you have to get out of the way. And sometimes that means I have to get out of the way and say, is this my agenda, or is this, what's best here? And if it is best, then I should know why. And I should be able to articulate that with you. You should be able to hear me out and be open to it. And if it's not, maybe you've got something to say, hey, this is not the best option for me because of this. And I say, oh, I didn't think about that. And now learning has occurred for both of us, but it has to be something that is done from humility and, again, in pursuit of truth, of the most efficient way, So anyway, it's a fun dynamic. How do you stay motivated, inspired, especially during tough times?
I pray much. I read God's word because you get strength and power from Him, the Holy Spirit, to take you through these times. And I think it's very important that if you're a Christian, to be a part of a body of Christ and have a family, a church family. People are human, and humans make mistakes, and I know that there can be problems, but if it is done right from the heart of God, you, just like, for instance, I've been involved in several Bible studies this past year, different women, some the same, but different, and I glean their wisdom because some of them have lived longer than I have. And some are younger, and I hope to be an example to them. And that is so inspiring, to share God's word and your experiences together.
Awesome. I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to just touch on it again. What are some of your gold nuggets of wisdom for marriage, for a successful marriage? What are some key important things to a long-lasting marriage?
Well, as I touched on before, the main foundation of a marriage, two people become one, as the Bible says. Again, physically, emotionally, spiritually. It is a spiritual thing, as I said before. But having the foundation, the Bible says you're building your life, which is your house, our temple. You're building either on sand or a firm foundation that will carry you through life, which our Heavenly Father has given to us life, eternal life in Christ. And when even if one isn't saved yet, you pray for them and you live the life, like I said before, in front of them, and love them through Christ's love. And the Bible says that the wife or the husband will win that one to the Lord. And that's not their power, but it's Christ in them. So that is the main foundation. And when you are in that situation, forgiveness is the key, one of the biggest keys in life. The Bible speaks a lot about unforgiveness, and God won't forgive us if we don't forgive others. Now, is it easy to do when we're very hurt? Is it easy? No. That's when you pray and said, God, I cannot do this, but in you, give me the forgiveness I need for this person, whoever it is, and especially our mates, our husband or wife. That is prominent. That happened all during our marriage. There wasn't a time that we didn't come to each other. And a lot of times, if we got loud together on occasions that I was not happy about doing, we would ask our children. That's so important. When you've done wrong or in front of the children, to go to them and ask forgiveness. And
show humility. Show
humility.
Show resolution. You know,
resolution and humility, because you will win, you will grow, you will prosper when you have humility.
And then it wasn't done in vain. It's a lesson for you. But I think that's something huge in parenting and relationships in general. It can be taking ownership in a business relationship. It can be a marriage like you're describing, or even parenting. Show the other person, whoever they be in the relationship, what conflict resolution looks like. This is what it looks like for me to admit I was wrong, for me to admit that I take responsibility, or to say I know you were wrong, but if there's repentance there, to come alongside of that and show support, because that is going to bolster that up. That's going to buttress or reinforce their restoration. You know, if they make a mistake and you give them forgiveness. I think that happened a lot with you and Dad and in your relationship. You know, when there was wrongdoing and there was forgiveness, it causes the person to move away from that. I mean, it's larger than yourself. It's bigger than being human. It can only be achieved through the power of God and in the forgiveness that we were shown through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ.
That's right.
Is the reason why we can forgive other people. And he gave us the example of life, right? Like the best life that we should be living. And that most fulfilling, most rewarding life is the life of service, is the life of humility. Doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you're not prepared or ready or
you're
strong.
Strong, actually.
You're actually stronger to be able to show those things. So great answer. I love it. I do want to talk a little bit about you and Dad's decision to homeschool, because I'm one of 4 and there was 2 kids older than me. And it was really interesting too. You had 4 kids and you guys did girl, boy, 16-year break, girl, boy again.
And that's because we felt led of the Lord. We were young when we started, and then we were 33 and 35
you called
when
us,
we had started having the last 2. So.
You called us your second life.
Right, my second life.
Second life. Now, the first 2 kids weren't homeschooled. They went to Christian schools, but then you decided to homeschool us. Can you kind of break down why you decided that?
Basically, what started us on this road, because when I first got the idea of it, I said, there's no way I can do that. I'm not qualified, blah, blah, blah. But what got us started is the textbooks, it was coming a little, and I can see where today it's gone way farther than I thought it would. But we felt that...
to be clear, you mean it's gone away from biblical principles?
Well, even just morally, if you're a moral, great person that believes in the family, and you don't want these other concepts coming into your child's, you can be the one that educates them. So with God's help, he said, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. It was a wonderful, wonderful life. There was 5 to 8 of us girls that started, and we grew from the time my children graduated high school. There was over 200. But they learned so much from the maturity of their parents and their siblings. I just want to get it out there that it's not this secluded bunch of people.
Well, no, but it's not secluded, and I'm not saying that, or it doesn't have to be. You can certainly join groups, and you can certainly get your kids into programs. I did Taekwondo. I think I'm very thankful that I was homeschooled. I mean, I think it had a lot of advantages. We had a lot of freedom to travel the country, to go on vacations, to see places. I love the fact that we could just, go to the battlefields instead of just reading about them. And so that gave us some liberty, and especially with Dad's work, he was a a real estate broker who worked out of the home. So between his job and the homeschooling, we had a lot of freedom for boating, for family time, but a lot of togetherness. So I think that's great. I think it really boils down to how you're training your kids. If you're letting them explore their creativity and you're facilitating that, you know, with field trips and curriculum, and you're challenging your kids. I was never socially awkward because I just didn't have that fear. I was able to express myself and learn how to articulate myself and talk to people. And I wanted to talk to people and get information. You know, that was a big thing, you know, when we went on field trips. Raise your hand, ask questions, you know, get involved. But I think homeschooling can be done. I just want to explore the possible downsides and the possible negatives. I think that the good far outweighs the negatives, but I do want to talk a little bit about some of the, let's just say, challenges or disadvantages to homeschooling, because I want to explore the topic. I don't want to just be biased and say homeschooling is great, it's the only answer. You know, a lot of people, my whole life, and I'm sure yours too, whenever they found out that you homeschooled or that I was homeschooled, they ask about socializing. They ask about, you know, what about friends? What about groups? It was very nice that we were, like you mentioned, part of a homeschooling group that came together. We had activities, we had field trips, we had, of course, I was a part of a kind of an umbrella school that handled grades and whatnot, and they had campuses, so I got to dissect animals and go to prom and all of that. So all of that was really great for social skills. But there's been so many like negative things come out of a certain time, and some toxic leadership in the homeschooling realm, such as Bill Gothard and some of these other people that we went to the conferences and, you know, sort of blindly, obviously wanting the best. I know you and Dad wanted the best for us. What do you think about some of those downsides and some of the things that have come out within the community?
Well, first of all, I believe that so many people, the majority of people, I would say, has got a set view of what homeschooling is. They have no idea of how socialized they really, really are in the community as well. And
as long as you're on top of it as a parent. I mean, if you could just keep them at home, just, you know, and some people do. They just homeschool their kids. Here's your book, here's your curriculum. They don't have friends. They don't have being a part of groups. What do you think about that? I mean, I think that they should.
That's not good.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Correct.
In homeschooling, you get more of a positive. You have all kind of personalities, and nobody's perfect.
Right.
Children are children, but for the most part, they are really they're socializing in a positive way, so that when they get in the world in not positive way, they'll know what to do. It's not that they have to be put their hand on the burner to learn how to
correct
see all of this. And there's always some that don't do it right. They're secluded, and they're not half taught, you might say. Their children, that's always bad, but there's bad in everything.
Yeah, there's so many kids, and it's so tough because, again, I think the parents, I think you and Dad had the right intentions. I want to take my kids out of harm's way. I want to take them out of the filth. I want to take them away from negative influences or bad, influences or groups, and I want to protect them. I want to shield them. I want to show them a different way. But sometimes they run from that as teenagers and going through that rebellious stage. I know I did. You fight against that, and you find it becomes exciting to break the rules, and you want to see for yourself what's out there. It's got to be a balance, because I don't believe that you can put your kid's hand on the burner like you're saying. But I think when we don't teach how to solve the problems, and we prioritize being just so holy and spotless and perfect, and then, gosh, there's so many kids within the homeschooling realm that tragic things have happened to, or they've gone down crazy paths in life. And I think it comes from that balance not being upkept. I think that parents who had a ministry but prioritized the ministry over the kids and just traveled and did and, you know, went places and saw things and didn't prioritize their children first. And their children said, oh, I have to get your attention. Even if it was subconsciously, I have to get your attention, and I'm going to get your attention. And, you know, so that's why I think it's so important that if you're going to go down this road, and honestly, even if you're not homeschooling and you have another option, or you're, you know, public school, you've got to make sure that your children are heard, that they're able to express themselves. You know, what do you think about all of that? I know that's a lot.
Well, going back to what you said about like Bill Gothard and his fall, so to speak. Since the beginning of time, take the prophets, some of them, they fell.
Yeah.
David, a man after God's own heart, and what he did and what happened, that happens all through life, every day.
Yeah.
Famous pastors, not so famous pastors, people we look up to. This happens, but that's when we have to keep our eyes on the Lord.
Well, I think it's important to note that, you know, everyone is so caught off guard when it happens, and I think even the people are caught off guard, but it's a slow fade. It doesn't happen quick. It happens with a little bit of feeding of that thing. Okay, oh, there's a cute secretary. I'm gonna text her something flirty today, or I'm gonna say something, or bring her some flowers, or, you know, it's feeding those things and letting them grow within you, and thinking that you can hold fire to your chest and not be given to power. Self-control, discipline, and self-regulation, and being in control of yourself, and that means knowing yourself and knowing that I'm not going to put myself in situations where my character is going to be compromised, or, you know, I'm even going to look like it. You know, there's a saying in the Marine Corps that perception is reality. You know, so if I'm coming out of the movies with my secretary in the evening, and some couple from church sees me, what is the perception there? Hey, where's your wife? You know, and does that mean anything was wrong? No. Does that mean that it looks that way and now gossip starts? I think that it's important to know yourself, and to not put yourself in positions where you're going to risk compromising your character, or even falling prey like David did.
God has the perfect verse when he says, do not make provision for the flesh. I know Billy Graham said one time, you know, he was world traveler all over the world and met many Christians and many women that were leaders, you know, and he always had his men around him every time. If they
accountability.
If they had booked a luncheon, like with she and Billy Graham, he said that from the time he started preaching, and so
he had people accountability.
You know, he did have the accountability, and that's what we cannot let our guards down.
Yeah, accountability is important. Accountability can be power, not weakness.
Yeah.
There's sin and human nature, which is sinful, and I think that's really what I want to point out for those families, those individuals, those kids, the parents who maybe don't want to talk about certain things that happen because they have guilt that maybe they were unaware, or they followed some of these leaders that put out curriculum that probably had good intentions, but just like hell is paved on the road of good intentions, their sin and power and the misuse of power gets in. And I think that happened in a lot of these situations, like Bill Gothard, and just some of the, it happens in the church, because this is where the devil sees the most casualties. You know, this is why in the Marine Corps, you're not allowed to salute officers, because snipers would target the officers, and you don't salute in the field, and it's the same thing in that we have to protect the church. You have to protect the family. You have to protect, I think there were people that were hurt by these organizations. There were people that were abused and that are holding that are holding homeschool, they're holding their parents, they're holding the church, they're holding God accountable, and they're blaming those things on account of man and man's sin. And I just want to clarify that, because I very lightly experienced some of these things, some of these toxic things, but I think that it can be unpacked. You can identify, oh, that's that person's shortcoming. They couldn't handle the power. And if that is you, if that's something that someone listening has been through, I just want to say it is valid. You did experience those things, and now it's time to go back, unpack them, realize what they were for what they were, and that you were just a kid, you were just a child, and that your parents were doing the best that they could. In most cases, they were putting the best foot forward. They were saying, hey, this is an option that is closer to God's word. We get to spend more time together. I get to keep them out of, learning all kinds of brainwashing curriculum. And, I'm going to teach my kid to be a go-getter. They're not going to just be a sheeple, person in line, in learning how to be a good worker. They're going to be a thinker. They're going to be out there. So I think that those things are there, and they're attainable and reachable, but I think it has to be done the right way, and of course you guys did a great job. We learned, I think, as we went, and you guys were willing to change and, adapt families of faith and other things. But it's all a learning process. And that's really what I want to drive home to parents and to adults that are maybe not unpacking some things in their childhood, whether it be church, youth camps, homeschooling, things that happen in these formidable years, maybe even in high school, in public school, but things that happen in formidable years where you were affected and then you buried it and then you put it away. There is a path to unpacking those things, realizing someone's errors or shortcomings. Maybe it's even your parents, and realizing that they were doing their best, and that now it's up to you to take, as an adult, as a mature adult with some perspective and understanding, it's time to zoom past the church, zoom past the youth pastor, zoom past the homeschool teacher, and get some relief, get some freedom, take the good and delete the bad, and I think that's what we want for our kids, right? I mean, you're my parent, but I think every parent wants better for their kids, but sometimes there is some things that they are afraid to go, or they feel guilty about doing, that caused one of their kids to behave a certain way, or maybe have some trauma. And they don't want to face the realization that they were in charge when that happened. But I think the healthy thing to do is to listen to your kids and say, this did happen. We were doing our best. Sin got in, and let's learn from that, and let's apply those, protective measures with our kids. And there's a whole new slew of them now, right? With technology and AI and the internet and everything like that. So we're going to have to be learning to pass the information on for sure. But all right, just wrapping up, I just want to sort of touch on, I like to ask people for their gold nuggets. I think I got that from you, gold nuggets of wisdom. But what are just some gold nuggets of wisdom in navigating life? Like, what are your go-to? And again, for those who don't know my mom, she is just extremely giving, extremely kind, extremely sweet. She's probably the sweetest person. I don't think when you get to heaven there'll be like one page of wrongdoing, but once they get past that page, but she is just a saint. I mean, she's just a modern day sweetheart.
A sinner saved by grace.
Well, yeah, I think I get a lot of my empathy and compassion from you, and again, because of toxic masculinity, because of being in the Marines, because of other things, I might have viewed that as a weakness, but I'm learning how to use it as a strength. And I think it is a strength. It can be a weakness like anything else. But when it's targeted and when it's Christ-like, when it's appropriate, it can be a beautiful thing and a gift. And I think that it is your gift, is grace and mercy. So what are some what are some things? How should people be living their life to live their best life? What are some of your gold nuggets?
Take time with all that are around you. Know that time is passing quickly and so many opportunities are missed. What helps me through life the most, even with the passing of my husband and my loved ones, is that there's a time. The Bible said there's a time and a season for everything. And with tears in my eyes, many times but I will say thank you, Lord, for that time and that season. I was raising my children and loving my husband, and us working together to raise a family.
So that was time well spent.
So anyway, that is looking back and thinking of those things, seeing and talking about being proud. Now there was, I'll just have to bring that in. When you have your children and then your grandchildren and great-grands, that just adds more joy and more proudness to your life, and thanksgiving to God for his blessings in your life, for seeing all of that, all my children's accomplishments, even as adults. It's just an extension of the happiness of having a family. That is so very important. My foundation, and you're going to hear it every time a question's asked, I will always refer to the Lord, because Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. What does that cover? It's who I am. It's my life, every part of life. And he is the only truth. I mean, we have truth on earth that are, morally right. I'm not talking about that, but the ultimate truth. So basing your life on that and that person, he's not a mysterious thing out here that people might imagine. He's real. And when he is real in your life and you live by his principles, that is the nuggets. Every verse in the Bible is a nugget to help us on our way to eternal life.
And I think if we just look at, like I said, if we look at the life of Christ, I think a lot of people look to the Word, and of course there's nothing wrong with that, but I think we should also be looking.
He is the living Word.
Yes, and I think we should be looking at the life, because the life was meek, humble, servant. He spent time with people and serving people and connecting with people and unconditionally loving people. And like, if you think that was just by chance, just to be a certain level of, whatever unattainable, hierarchy over us, I don't, because he came in the flesh. He came in the flesh, and the life that he lived is how we should be striving to live. Now, he was sinless, and we're not perfect, we're not sinless, but I think we can be striving towards that. I think we can have that zoomed out consciousness of the eternal mindset, and that we're only on this earth for a blip in time, and that we should make it count. We should not be afraid, like you talked about. We should serve others like you do. We should be living and replicating the life of Christ. We should be listening to one another, serving one another, having these interactions and experiences, stopping to smell the roses and talk and communicate, reflect on things, even if they're painful, even if they're mistakes. Reflect on our life, enjoy the nuggets of life, the nuggets of...
Well, we learn from those.
Yes, we do. And if we don't reflect and we just bury them, then that is hurtful to us. It's important to unpack them, digest them, pull the data out of them. And maybe they hurt, maybe they cause tears. Experience that in the moment, but get what you can, take what you can out of it, contrast it to the life of Christ, and keep pushing forward. Keep pressing towards the mark. Keep going, and and do your best to get there.
I'd like to say one thing in closing too, right? Just one more thing you just touched on about giving. One of the things that I was thinking about that I wanted to say, starting at the younger generation, this is for every age, but I have found that through life, I don't do this to get blessings. I don't. I do it hopefully my purpose is for Christ, for Him and His glory. His glory is what it is. But when you see needs of people, I don't care, you'll see them all during your lifetime. But if you possibly can, and God puts it on your heart to help them in some way, maybe not financial, maybe another way, maybe taking them places, you know, that they can't drive or have a car. All these many big and little things that you can do is the greatest, it's just the greatest joy that you can have in life.
To help others, serve others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like Jesus did.
Yep.
So, well, great. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast. Look, you survived. We made it. We're back. But thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. And I love you so much.
I love you.
Okay. You're good.